Okay, so Kaseya, you have fairly recently launched Kaseya 365, and I think in the sort of news announcement, it was described as a monumental game changer. So perhaps you can tell us why you've given it that sort of moniker. It'd be good to understand.
Sure, and the moniker that we've given it is hopefully descriptive, or not hopefully, but it has been descriptive of many of our MSP partners that have described that way. So here's what K365 conceptually is. Or maybe I'll take a step back. Here's the problem that we are solving. MSPs, particularly MSPs that serve small to mid-sized businesses around the world. That's our market. So when we talk about MSPs, we're not talking about the IBMs of the world and the Tatas of the world. We're talking about those whose end customers are primarily small to mid-sized, medium businesses around the world. And it's interesting. In the world today, small to mid-sized businesses are making up more and more of economic activity. We've seen studies that show overall economic activity by small to mid-sized businesses is more than 60% of total commercial economic activity, and almost 2/3 of all new job creation in the world is created from small to mid-sized businesses. So SMBs, as they will, they're growing and becoming a disproportionately large portion of the economy. And that's what's allowing that to happen, and what's driving that is the digital transformation of small to mid-sized businesses. The enterprise, the Fortune companies and things like that, Fortune companies, they digitally transformed from the early to mid 90s to maybe the end of 2010. That was their phase of digitally transforming, or moving to a part where the business systems and the information from those business systems is the most important asset and the most important operational dependency that they have. Well, as technologies become more consumable over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen small to mid-sized businesses take that journey as well. There's a big difference. Small to mid-sized businesses don't have large internal IT shops that can do all the work for them. They outsource it, and they outsource it to MSPs, the managed service provider community that we describe. Huge community. And particularly, so the MSPs have a very large responsibility in society, and that is to make sure that the digital transformation of these SMBs happens. Something else has happened in the last 7, 8 years, and that's the rapid rise of commercially driven cyber criminal activity around the world. Ransomware being the primary vehicle of monetization of it. So as these small to mid-sized businesses, as they become dependent on technology, because when you digitally transform, your systems have to be always available and always secure. So for that to happen, it's not easy. And the MSPs are the vehicle that's required by, pretty much by our society to make sure that these SMBs are functioning and that they are secure. Now, if you think about the responsibility that places on our society, that's pretty big. It's pretty important. The average MSP, 2023, had profit margins of around between 10 and 12%. And if you compare the importance of an MSP and the value that they deliver and the challenges that they deliver it, yet their profit margins are smaller than an equivalent accounting firm or a plastic surgery center or a security firm, like a physical security firm. All those are very important aspects, but the level of complexity and sophistication that an MSP has to do is much higher. So we looked at that problem and we said, that's a problem we think we can help we can solve. The second problem that Kaseya 365 looks to solve is because of that financial reality. Because I'm an MSP and my profit margins aren't great, my end customer, the solicitor or the architecture firm or the large trading house, whatever it may be, that organization often isn't willing to pay what's required to properly secure their environment. One of the things MSPs around the world, they tell me they struggle with is sometimes their customers are a little bit frugal. And, if someone hasn't been hit with a cyber crime or cyber incident, they may not be willing to pay for the proper amount of cybersecurity layering required to protect them. So what that manifests itself to is there are many times when MSPs, because their end customer isn't willing to pay for the advanced security or the whatever's required, they have to provide them a security layer that's basic. They don't want to, but they can't afford to do it because the customer won't pay the extra money for it. So you end up with a situation where that end customer is somewhat naked in their security posture. And then God forbid something happens to that customer, the MSP gets blamed anyway. It's a tough scenario. So the financial unit economics of the entire MSP industry seemed a little bit upside down. So when we released K365, and over the last 10 years, we've been planning this, building for it. One of the primary driver is to change the unit economics of the entire MSP industry. So we wanted to change the unit economics for a couple of reasons. One of them is, quite frankly, due to the value that MSPs provide to society, their clients, and how hard their job is. Being an MSP is not easy. They should be in the upper echelon of business service providers in terms of EBITDA margins, not the lower echelon, which is where they are now, financially. The second aspect is we never want to have to take a step back. We don't ever want a Kaseya MSP to be put by their customers in a situation where they're not giving the full security solution because the customer just, quote unquote, can't pay for it or won't pay for it. So, but when we released Kaseya 365, what we have done is change the unit economics of the entire industry. So on average, an MSP, say the MSP does 10% profit margin, and they're getting £100 per endpoint or £100 per user in terms of revenue from the customer. That means that they're making about £10 of profit on that customer per endpoint per month. With Kaseya 365, that almost doubles. The reason it almost doubles is Kaseya 365 is providing everything required to manage, secure, and back up that customer's environment. So within that license, there's the one unified license, one unified subscription. They're getting the functionality of RMM, getting all the essential security functions. They're getting antivirus, they're getting patch management, they're getting EDR, they're getting MDR with a 24/7 managed SOC capability, as well as getting a ransomware rollback capability in the event that something does happen. And then we provide them backup on that endpoint. All of that for roughly £4 per month per endpoint. And that's compared to the roughly £16 it would take to acquire all that capability from 7, 8 other vendors, et cetera. So that's roughly £10, £12 of pure profit that MSP can do many things with. They can double their profit margin or substantially increase their profit margin. They also can use it to hire more engineers. They can use it to shore up the security posture for people who aren't necessarily willing to pay for it. So we believe our intention around Kaseya 365 is to fundamentally change those unit economics and at the same time provide what we believe is a better piece of kit. One of the things that's the most compelling aspect of Kaseya 365 is that there's over 20 fully built automations included within it. So because we own all the different modules that make up Kaseya 365, we own all the software. Over the last decade, we've been able to integrate them very, very closely. And through that integration, it allows us to then build automations that automate the essential things and the most common tasks that the MSP engineers do. And we've seen upwards of 50% of what the MSP engineers are doing are automated. So not only is it a much better financial solution, it's providing huge amounts of automation and efficiency for the MSP. So that's why we believe that K365 is fundamentally altering the industry for the better because it's changing the unit economics of the entire industry.
And you say it's been an objective or a plan for, I think you said about 10 years. So yeah. You've basically taken that time to engineer out cost yourselves, is that right? So you can increase that margin. Is that how you've achieved this, or how are you able to help them increase that margin? Where is the money being saved elsewhere, I suppose, is the obvious question.
Yeah, so over the last 10 years, Kaseya has been on a journey building and constructing our platform called IT Complete. And we've made, I believe, 16 or 17 acquisitions during that time. We've grown from 200-300 people to over 5,000 people. We've done quite a lot of things. But the key part is we've always had that kind of North Star vision. And that is to provide a single license that allows the MSPs to be more profitable, more efficient / automated, whatever. People use different terminology in different parts of the world. And so when we start, it's very difficult. I almost made a mistake and said impossible. Nothing is impossible. We get proven that every day, right? But it's very, very unlikely for an organization to achieve success if they're attempting a strategy like ours, if they sit down and say, we're going to build every element of IT and security by itself. Because it's difficult to be an expert in all of it unless you buy that expertise. When we bought Rocket Cyber, the two founders, Carl and Billy, brilliant cybersecurity experts. They're still with us, just as most of the founders of the companies we've acquired. They're experts in MDR and managed SOC. When we acquire IT Glue, Nadir Merchant, the founding CTO, he's still here, and he's an expert in IT documentation. It's acquiring those companies, retaining the intellectual property owners, if you will, the people who came up with the ideas and the experts in those respective fields, and then integrating it together. And that takes a long time, it takes a lot of resource, a lot of money. In addition to that, here's the part that's important financially for Kaseya. It's important that we made sure, and that we continue to make sure, that our software runs and consumes resources efficiently. Meaning every SaaS provider out there, we pay for compute, we pay for storage, we pay for bandwidth, networking, and that's a part of the realities of a SaaS company. And we have had tremendous engineering efforts, making sure that we have integrated all of these different modules together so it presents as one, as well as the engineering work to make sure that these applications run incredibly efficiently so we can charge less for it and still make our profit, make the money that we need to make so we can continue to generate revenue, generate cash, profit, reinvest in products, etc. So it was and is and continues to be just a phenomenal engineering effort by our R&D and product teams that drive it.
And in terms of the way it's being offered, I mean, it's obviously subscription model. So is there just one size fits all, or as in often in partner programs, there are different levels, or how can people engage with this to get?
Yeah, so we have
And
two.
also, sorry, just quickly, do they get the same savings regardless of where they engage? I suppose
That's an awesome question. There are two versions of Kaseya 365. Kaseya 365 Pro and Express. The only difference is the Express version does not have MDR / 24/7 SOC capabilities. And it costs, it costs appropriately less for that. And that is to provide flexibility for our partners and what their needs are. The second question is the financial benefits are there for both. Absolutely, yes. The same idea applies, the same logic and kind of thought about changing those unit economics so that an MSP can A, make more profit, and B, not have to make hard choices about customers' environments. Absolutely. Same model.
And in terms of the feedback, I imagine you talk to the industry, along the journey.
Yeah.
You've clearly announced it as well, so you may have some actual sort of production field feedback, shall we say? So what have MSPs been telling you? I say before, during, and now it's out there.
Sure. One of the things that I could say that we try to be, and Phil, we don't always do this as well as we would like, and I'm the first to admit when we screw up, but we really try to be what's called customer centric or customer centricity. We try to do a lot of shutting up and listening, getting a lot of input and feedback, and then processing that feedback and trying to be better. Not just in our technology, everything about our company, how we hire people, even people we don't offer jobs to. We try to do, retrospective groups with them and say, well, how could the interviewing process been better? How could everything? Because it's the only way you can get better. I mean, every company strives to perfection. We strive for that. We're far away from it, but unless you go with eyes wide open and mind clear, eyes open and ears open, you're not going to get better. So we got a ton of input prior and then feedback after. The input helped us come to where we are today. The feedback or it's been live now for about a week and a half. Actually about 8 days, 9 days. Weekends. We launched it at our show 10 days ago or 9 days ago. We have, and I don't have the exact count as of today because it is 9:30 Eastern time in the morning when I'm doing this here. So I haven't looked at the date in the last couple of days, but about 1,250 or 1,300 customers or partners have already signed up for this in a week. And when you think about what that means, I think that's the beginning of, that's unbelievable. And it's a testament to the teams that have worked on this platform. It's a testament to the people at Kaseya who really genuinely care about the MSP community and the MSPs that are powered by Kaseya. They genuinely, it's funny, one of the things in our labs, in our development areas you'd see are we'd show lots of pictures of the MSP as the little David fighting the big Goliath, which is the cybersecurity criminals and all these bad people. And it's like, how do we give them more weapons? How do we give them more financial results? I mean, they're out there fighting the good fight, and it's at Kaseya, it's become pretty important that we're fighting for the MSPs, and we're fighting not just to give them the best kit, but to make them the most profit. There's no reason why an MSP should have a lower profit margin than an accounting firm, considering how hard they work, what they do, and how important it is. But we have, I suspect by the end of this week, there will be 2,000 MSP partners on Kaseya 365. By the end of the year, 10 to 15,000. And that's pretty good work by the team.
And I suppose, you must also have thought of the disruption in the market. So again, I don't know whether any sort of anecdotally or whatever, you've had any feedback from folks that you might deem as competitors. Have you put the fear of God into them, or how do you think you will be seen in the market for with this initiative?
Yeah, I think in the age of social media that we all live in, I think a lot of our competitors decided to voice their opinions on social media. And that's awesome. Listen, competition is what makes capitalism great. We have very smart, very capable competitors. I think we're better, of course, and I'm sure they would say the same thing about themselves, but whomever those competitors may be, and there's lots of them because we play in just about every area of IT and security management. I think that I'm sure they're going to look at what one of their competitors did, just like we do, and adjust and adapt and try to innovate and come back and come to stuff. But I think ultimately, Kaseya has a pretty big advantage. We have an advantage because we're bigger than all of them combined, literally. Now, size doesn't necessarily make an organization better, but here's what having that kind of size and scale does for Kaseya. Kaseya having it, here's how it benefits their partners. And we've demonstrated it with Kaseya 365, and believe me, there's so much more to come. There's freaking so much more to come. We can put 5 times as many resources on a problem or on an opportunity or on a solution or on a product than any one of our competitors. So let's assume that we're half as good, but we have 5 times the resources. We're gonna get something that's much better. It's just like Microsoft did with Microsoft Office in the early 90s. There's a reason Lotus, and there's a reason most of the people who are hearing this don't never use Lotus 123, or they never used WordPerfect, or they never used Harvard Graphics. If for those listening, if you don't know what those are, Google them. Each one of those products was a 90% plus market share product in the early 90s. And then Microsoft said, whoa, we're going to come up and change the world with Microsoft Office. They offered an integrated platform where it really worked as one, and it cost 1/2 to 1/3 as much. And here we are, and the other companies are gone. So I think we have excellent competitors. I think they're formidable, and they keep us on our toes. But I think that our strategy, the strategy of an integrated platform that works together, that costs a fraction of what it costs to have 10 different unintegrated products from unintegrated vendors, I think it's kind of tough to compete with that. So, directly, I have not spoke to my competitors about this directly. That's not usually how things work in the, in the software business. But, I'm friends with a lot of our competitors. Jason McGee from ConnectWise, he was my younger brother's first boss coming out of university. How crazy and small is that world? Michael George just recently got back in the industry. Great guy. I've known Michael for a long time. He's super talented, smart guy. But no, we haven't sat down and talked about it. If we all get together, we're probably going to talk about things other than competing with each other, because then we'll get into a fight, and that wouldn't be so fun for them.
And I mean, you've been sort of doubly busy, because I believe alongside the launch we've talked about, you've also unveiled your Partner First pledge. Yeah. So I think there are 5 key initiatives. So I don't know if you wanted to handle them all in one go, or I can sort of mention. Yeah, please do tell us what's going on there.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's a great idea or transition. So our Partner First pledge, or the cool, fun acronym we use, is the P1P, right? The P1P. One of the things that we had not done well in the last year is we have not formally communicated some of the informal processes that we do. And I'll take 100% responsibility for this. It's one of the things, smaller companies tend to have relationships with all of their customers. And small entrepreneurial, nimble companies, and sometimes at Kaseya, we're too entrepreneurial. That may sound crazy, but sometimes we still think of ourselves as a 20 or 40 or 80 or $100 million business instead of the $1.5 billion to $2 billion business that we are. And Partner First pledge was something that a lot of our partners said to us, guys, what are you doing? Why aren't you communicating the things that you do? So we felt it was incredibly important to put it in writing, to make a big public statement. about a couple of the things that we have been doing and will continue to do and pledge that we're not changing. When you're the largest, company in an industry or space, you become the target of everyone, right? Everyone likes to spread rumors and say things that maybe necessarily aren't true. So we wanted to kind of like set the facts straight, if you will. So one of them, as we said very clearly, every single thing that Kaseya offers, every subscription, every license, is offered on a 1-year as well as a 3-year deal. Of course, if someone makes a larger commitment to Kaseya, they'll have a better price, just like it is in any business, but that's what we do. 100% very clear on that. The second is, and it's not in any particular order, it's what we call the catastrophic risk protection guarantee. And that's important. And what that means is if you're an MSP and let's say you lose a customer that's 30% of your revenue. I mean, that's tough, man. I don't care who you are. That's tough. And that means you may have to lay employees off. That could be catastrophic, right? 10% margin business loses 30% of its revenue. You're upside down right away just by basic math. So we want to be able to be a good partner. Partnership, I said this at our conference at Connect, and it's a lesson I've learned my whole life. All partnerships are good and great when things are going well. You find out the true value of a partner when things go sideways. How do they behave when things go sideways? And if things go sideways and the partner doesn't behave in a fashion befitting a partner, that's tough. That's in any aspect of life, relationships, friendships, business, whatever. So catastrophic risk is we'll try to share in that risk. So if an MSP loses that customer, we're not going to hold them accountable, or they'll have no financial obligation for the license costs associated with that particular lost customer. Another aspect of the P1P, I love that, or the Partner First Pledge, is the ability, it's called flex spend. So one of the things that's pretty apparent and relevant in IT and security is things change, right? Things change. So if a partner is leveraging an aspect of IT Complete or platform, and for whatever reason, their needs change. If they have to go, let's say they're backing up, they're using our appliance-based backup to provide backup and disaster recovery for an on-premise server, and that client decides to go to Azure. Now the MSP is like, what am I going to do with this box? Well, I can't do anything with this appliance. We allow them to shift that spend to our Azure backup product, as an example. Or if a client shifts from a Windows device to a Mac device, or things like that, it just gives protection. And that's one of the benefits of being with Kaseya, because the platform is so robust. There's minimal technology relevancy risk. Another aspect of the P1P is our price lock guarantee. It's very simple. We commit that we will not increase our pricing for a customer above a CPI-based measure at time of renewal, period. Now, I've read a couple of things that some folks have said about it, questioning its integrity. And to be very, very direct on this, if a customer or a partner has entered a 3-year contract with Kaseya, there is only one price increase during those 3 years, and that's at their renewal time. And that price increase is not compounding for every single year. It only hits one time, once. So if the price raise is 6%, it's only happening 6% one time in year 4, not 6% at year 1, year 2, year 3, etc. And what it does is it provides protection for the MSP that we're not going to jack their prices up at when their contract ends or whatever. Most software companies are fairly responsible, but we've seen price increases upwards of 15, 16, 18, 20% in cases. And that is something that we are contractually committing them to do. So that's our P1P, and we feel pretty good that we try to listen to the market, and we'll keep listening, and I'm sure there'll be enhancements and adjustments and different components to P1P as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to recall there's something to do with the Datto BCDR contract. I think you were offering it, is it month to month or something like
Yeah.
that?
So
It's another
when we acquired Datto, Datto had a policy where it's called their evergreen policy. It means that if you have an appliance from Datto, as an example, and when the appliance comes off contract, when you buy an appliance up front, you can pay month to month for the BCDR subscription, and we've brought that back. We've enabled customers to go back to that type of commercial model. Some liked it, some didn't. It was kind of expensive, but what are, obviously a 1 year or a 3 year term is much less expensive than that. But some partners just liked it, and again, we just shut up and listen, and we're bringing it back. If people are more comfortable paying a little bit more for that, that's fine. Like we don't want to step in front of the way they want to do business.
Okay, and in finish, I mean, it's very greedy of me to ask because you've explained a lot, and Kaseya's clearly been very, very busy. But I think you hinted at one point there's a lot more to come, and I suspect you won't want to reveal any major secrets. But can you give us a flavour of perhaps what else we might be expecting from yourselves over the coming months?
So we're very optimistic that Kaseya 365 is going to do a lot for this industry. A lot. The community will. A lot. I mean, our goal is to make an MSP powered by Kaseya the best, the most profitable, the most secure, the most successful, the fastest growing, all the great attributes. Kaseya 365 is the first step. Along that line, you'll see the similar strategy applied continuously throughout the next 15 months. And there's another big announcement that's coming at DattoCon at the end of October in Miami.